Umma, umma, yay. Umma, 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 yay. Umma being Korean for mother. And this movie is a blend of Korean and American, as we have Sandra Oh as a mother herself, and she's got problems with her mother and her daughter. This horror movie is very light on horror. It's a bit more of a family drama, I'd say, compared to anything else. The horror elements are very just standard. Oh, there's a threatening looking character standing in the distance who's nowhere near me and can't do anything threatening. And then the moments where we do get the Umma in question doing some damage, it's just a bit over the top and not really engaging. I didn't really care that much for this film at any point throughout it. The premise is that Sandra Oh is Soo-hyun, at least that's her original Korean name. She has dropped that name because she's got a lot of stuff that happened in her childhood with her Umma, and that's impacted her relationship with her own daughter. So we've got these two dynamic relationships going on, and she's kind of the middle woman between both relationships. Sandra Oh's uncle arrives and says that her Umma passed away many months ago. She receives her belongings and sacred items that she kept very personal to herself, and is pretty much just haunted by her, by memories of her, hallucinations and seeing her and stuff like that, until our climax is just the very standard, oh, how do we defeat the presence at the end? We just sort of have a chat, and then they never come back ever again. It's a weird one, Umma, because it's got a lot of good things in it, mainly Sandra Oh. Like, she's great in everything. Like, I love her from being Eve in Killing Eve. I never watched Grey's Anatomy, so that's where a lot of people get their Sandra Oh love from, but that was just never a thing for me, so it's mainly Killing Eve that I got my appreciation for her as being an incredible actor. She here delivers a great performance. It's just a shame that it doesn't really do an awful lot. Like, no one dies. There's only really like 4 or 5 characters here. The setup is quite cool, but it doesn't really lead to anywhere properly climactic, because we have the whole thing that Sandra Oh lives with her daughter Chrissy. They live on a beekeeping farm sort of thing. They don't have any connection to the outside world other than a mutual friend called Danny. They have no internet, they have no cell phones, they have no electricity, because we, eventually learn that something happened in Soo-hyun's past where she was damaged by her mother with electricity. So she sort of like goes along the lines of, oh, I can't have any electricity because it makes me incredibly sick. But Chrissy, having no real access to the outside world, doesn't realise that that is complete balls. That kind of premise was okay. The beekeeping thing went a bit further than I was expecting it to. Like, we just spend a lot of time with them making honey and just sorting out the hives and stuff. If you want a better beekeeper horror movie, check out either The Deadly Bees by Amicus, or arguably a better film than this. In fact, no, it's definitely a better film than this, is Nicolas Cage's The Wicker Man. Not the bees! Oh, they're in my eyes! Oh, I'm gonna have to review that one day with the lads. Anyway, Umma. Yeah, it's not groundbreaking in any sense. I think aesthetically there are points in it that look really nice, but a lot of the sequences, the horror sequences, are so dark. Like, horrifically dark though. Like, you can barely tell what's going on. And it does, like, work with the movie being that they don't have any electric light coming in. I mean, you kind of have, like, the light of the moon, and then they have, like, lanterns and candles and things to illuminate the house. But there are some nighttime sequences where, we get a bit of sleepwalking, and it's just bloody pitch black. Like, you can barely make out outlines of people. And that was a bit disengaging in a way, because you couldn't really understand or, like, fully appreciate what was happening on screen. There was a cool shot quite early on in the film. It's the outline of Umma in kind of like the corner of the room. It's very Hereditary, where Annie sees her mother in the corner of the room, like the very vague silhouette of an outline of a body, just sort of looking back and, smiling. That worked great. That was nice. I love those moments in horror. I am definitely more of a fan of unsettling scenes rather than bang, there's a scare scenes. Yeah, even in the cinema screening I saw this at, no one like jumped, no one got panicky, no one got scared. It was just quite a dithering experience. Like, it's mostly, Sandra Oh and her relationship with Chrissy, because, Chrissy wants to get away from the house. She feels a bit trapped by her mother. She wants to go to college and make friends and meet new people, rather than just being stuck with her mother her whole life. And then on the flip side of that, you've got all the dark past with, Soo-hyun and her mother. The duality of the story is pretty decent, but it's not the most interesting thing I've ever seen. And the horror elements just don't drive home particularly strongly. All in all, it's just decent. Wait, is it though? Is it decent? Nah, it is a film. Like, I walked out of the screen and just thinking, I can't even place a score on this movie out of 10. Like, it's just sort of like a non-entity to me. Like, thank Christ it's got a good, solid leading performance from Sandra Oh, because that's the only real thing it's got going for it. I mean, it is a Sam Raimi produced movie, but Raimi has always had this incredible, knack for either creating geniusness or just bog standard averageness. It's either masterpiece or mediocre with Raimi in terms of producing, and this one's definitely on the mediocre spectrum of that. If you have seen this movie, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Could anything be improved? If you want to check out any more Korean horror related things on Unleash the Ghouls, some examples are I covered all of season 1 of All of Us Are Dead, and then myself and Kofi also reviewed I Saw the Devil a while back if you want to go and scout that one out. But yeah, as for Umma, overall, it's just not the greatest. It dilly-dallies a lot. The horror set pieces are all things that you've seen before multiple times in big cinema releases. It doesn't do anything particularly new, and the aesthetic is sometimes okay, but at other times a bit too dark. But overall, yeah, that was Umma.